Well, I'm Vesta Johnson. That was my married name. My birth name was Wilson, and I was raised in Missouri, in North Missouri. And I've lived in Missouri all my life. I started playing the fiddle when I was very young, 7 years old. Didn't have anything else to do. There was no, we didn't even have electric in the house. It was lived out on an old farmhouse, and we had to raise our own food and everything, and there wasn't any entertainment. You just went to school and come back home and worked and done chores, and you made your own toys, your own entertainment, and my dad played the fiddle, and my mother played some, and he played all the dances around if there was any. And the dances I'm talking about was house dances for people that lived on the farm just like we did. And come Saturday night, they were kind of tired of working and milking cows all week, and they kind of wanted a little social life. So they would invite the neighbors, come on over, we'll to my house, we'll push the furniture out of the middle of the floor and have a little dance if there's enough, and we'll put on the coffee pot, and everybody was poor. Nobody had any money, and that's what my dad did. And he played from about 8 o'clock till midnight, because midnight farmers had to get up the next morning and do their chores and take care of things. So midnight was late, and then they'd drive home, and usually in a team and wagon. That's what most people had to drive. There wasn't very few had a car, and if it was, is an old Model T or a Model A, an old beat up thing, and you was lucky to have that. That's the way I grew up, and this social life was a family thing. You always took your kids with you. You never left them at home. You didn't know what a babysitter was, and so you learned to dance when you was walking, and you learned to square dance or do any of the other dances that they did. And the music was set in the doorway. Um, Usually it was just fiddle and guitar. And if they was enough, then and they had enough room, they'd dance in two rooms. But because people didn't have much furniture, and they didn't have rugs on the floor, so it was just that simple. And that's the way I grew up playing. And it wasn't long till there was nothing else to do, so I picked up Dad's fiddle and I began to saw on it, and I learned a tune. And once you learn one tune, and there wasn't a lot of people around. Well, all farmers, all people, all families usually had some kind of music in their house, and it wasn't uncommon for men to have fiddles. And sometimes you think back and you look and they think they had a fiddle and a pocket knife and that was their possession. They thought more of that than you left them alone with that. And they would go up around the Saturday mornings, maybe they'd go up around the courthouse and play tunes together. And women had to stay at home with the kids, so that was kind of a bad thing. Women wasn't supposed to play much. That was a no-no. They were supposed to stay in the kitchen and take care of the kids and do the cooking and things. They weren't supposed to play fiddle. They could play guitar and sing some, or they could play piano. But when it come to fiddle, women just wasn't supposed to do that. So there was very few that took up the fiddle, and they've had to fight for that all for many years. They fought for that, playing the fiddle. Now it's changed. There's a lot of young girls and a lot of women that has played. So that has made a change. And that's kind of my lifestyle. I learned to play the fiddle. I didn't know a lot of tunes, but after I got married and started having a family, I quit playing the fiddle. I didn't have time. I worked out, and I had to take care of my kids. They come first. And so about 20 years there that I didn't play much fiddle. But after the kids got up and into high school, they kind of on their own, I began to play a little bit. And it's a good thing because now I don't have much else to listen to and do. So. I think that's about my lifestyle. Do you know anything to add to that?
No.
How did you start teaching lessons?
How did I start giving lessons?
Yeah.
Well, I don't really remember how I started. Just people wanting to learn my way. And I tell them, oh, I don't read music. I'm not a classical. I don't know a thing about it. But if they want to learn, I can teach them tunes. And, well, they come in to me they don't even know the strings. They don't know what strings is or what they are. They don't know how to tune one. They don't know anything. I've had them to say, what is this in the bow? It's horsehair. So I guess I don't really remember when I did start to teach, but I got in with the traditional arts program out of Columbia, Missouri. They're at the college. It's put on there through the traditional arts. I got in with that. And I've been into that for about 28 years. And I go to Bethel, Missouri, and teach the kids. And I've been doing that for 31 years. So that's kind of the way and I can't remember who I started with. I can't remember that. But it's been many a year, and people wanted to learn this tune and that tune and wanted to start playing the fiddle, and I do the best I can. And now I went several different places. I won't go anywhere. I tell them I won't go without Steve. He has to help me and take care of it because I can't ride a plane. I couldn't get nowhere on a plane by myself. And so now he drives and everything. So I won't go. If they call me to see if I'm ready to go, I'll tell them, yeah, I might. I talk to him, but I won't go without him. So.
Do you remember what some of the first songs you learned were?
Yes, I learned Golden Slippers on the fiddle. And for a long time I didn't like that tune, but now I play it and it don't bother me. There wasn't a lot of tunes that was learned back when I was a kid because it was a close, people didn't travel like they do now. You didn't have electric. There wasn't no such thing as a recorder. I've seen that come in. I've seen everything come and go. For a long time it was a wire recorder that was very, well, Bob Christensen had that, but nobody else could afford one. And I think he used it, he worked for the government and he had access to use one. So he did some recording. But then eventually the little recorders came out. I wore out a dozen of them, the recorders, the little box recorders. Now they've got all kinds of things out there that can help. And people hear a CD from across the country, it's not unusual to pick up a CD from somewhere else, some other locality, which if you ever heard from another county, it was great. You thought you was hearing something great, just to hear a fiddler from another county or another state. So in the 60s, they began to have a lot of contests. And I went to a lot of contests, not because I cared for the contest so much, but it was the people I met and the tunes I heard. So that's where I got a lot of my tunes, was just recording and hearing tunes from other fiddlers. And in the 60s and 70s, there was a lot of contests. Oh, I said I'd never give you a dime for all the contests that there was, but I wouldn't take $1,000 for the people I met. That was and at one time I knew almost every fiddler in the state of Missouri, and they did have a lot of fiddlers, good fiddlers. Now they're dying out, and Not too many. Well, there's several, but not. It isn't today like it was.
Why do you think it's dying out?
Too many other things that's taken their mind off. You know, these kids. He's got a boy that would rather sit and play the games or something rather than. And I think that's the source of what kids are doing. And so there's generations has grown up not having to play, not having to find out what they can do, not finding their own thing. There's generations that's grown up and never knew what it was to get out and get involved with any of the, musicians. And unless you was involved in it, and unless you had took a part in it, you grew up and not being able to play. So we've got generations there that it skipped.
Do you think it's going to change anymore?
I have seen it. I have seen over the years. It just kind of turns around. It'll be gone for a while, come back, gone, and that's with any kind of music. This old time music is what's leaving us and dying out.